Got it.
All right, perfect. There we go. Does anybody want to start off with, introductions or anything, or?
Yep, I'll do it.
Okay.
First of all, I appreciate y'all. Combining two different class sets into one. I know we have the email for Dr. Grant, so I'll make sure he sees that we communicated. But I'm James Mahan. I'm currently at Forsyth Central High School in Cumming, Georgia. I'm a defensive coordinator on the football team and then assistant golf coach. Was I supposed to say anything else?
No, I think that
No,
was about
okay,
it.
good.
Yeah. My name's Joshua Schmitt. I was at Brunswick last year. This year, I'm over at Coffee County. So I'm Coffee County High School. I coach football. I do special teams. And I just recently got the job to be middle school golf coach. So,
Nice.
yeah.
I'm Morgan. I teach at Morgan County Middle School, and I do PE here, and then I coach at the high school. I coach varsity softball as an assistant, and then I also at the middle school do spirit cheerleading as well.
Okay, I'm Bianca Usher. The head girls basketball coach at Woodland High School in Henry County. There's two of them. There's one in Cartersville and one in Stockbridge, and I'm the one in Stockbridge. Like I said, I do girls basketball, and then I help out with softball. I'm more so female that's there for the male coaches.
Does anybody gone through everybody?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's all of us.
Yeah. So does anybody want to start off with the talking about the papers?
I will. I can start.
Okay.
The first paper was the preseason paper. I kind of just went through and talked about different team values and stuff like that you can have. It's actually cool is we're gonna do this with our team probably next week. The assessment that I used was like a little survey, kind of like ranking the different values, and I'm just really interested to see kind of what the girls end up picking. I think it'll be cool. And then I ended with a few like open-ended questions at the end of it. And the only an expectation that I had that may be hard is with the girls doing it, like actually being honest with it and not thinking like, hey, someone's going to read this and think this, this, and this about me because I picked these values. So we are going to make it like an anonymous survey. That was one thing I talked about in there. And then the in-season one, it was mainly that I wrote about in-season practice feedback, which I think is key to do because, sometimes you may feel like you're going through the motion every day when you're practicing and stuff, and just getting that feedback from your athletes saying like, hey, like this, I think this worked, but maybe we could try to do this so it's more game-like, or just certain things like that. Kind of did the same thing, like a little survey where they can, use a scale to rate themselves. Like if practice was organized, I felt like this worked, like 1 through 5, along with some open-ended questions. And then in the last one, the end of season assignment, I kind of talked about like a coaching evaluation, like where you evaluate the coaches that you work with on your team, and then also like the athletes evaluating the coaches on the team. I think this is good just because you kind of want to know how your athletes feel about you, and just to kind of like how other coaches see what you're doing and maybe some things that you may need to work on. And just that self-reflection piece as a coach, like it's good to have. That's really kind of it for me. If anybody else wants to go.
I can go and add to it. I did similar. I kind of talked about the same things. The overall aspect of it was basically getting the athletes involved. Just like a sense of like they should care a little bit more about the program. They'll get they're being more invested. So we talked about athletes' feedback and just really getting their goal, understanding their goals. Once a coach understands where an athlete is trying to go, they're able to kind of guide themselves of which each athlete wants to do. And it depends, it really depends on your coaching style towards each athlete, because everyone can't be coached the same. And then with the structured feed, like with paper, in this in season, getting feedback throughout the season, like you said, it becomes repetitive sometimes, and it almost feels like you're not really getting better. Just understand, like for me, it was more so putting in a new drill, seeing if the kids understood it. Could they apply the drill into the next into the game? Is it game like for them, or are they connecting the dots for it? And then with the coaching reflection, I this year at the end of my season, I didn't do a athlete's evaluation. I did a coaches evaluate. Well, I really let my assistant coaches evaluate me. And it was a little like a gut check to a certain thing, to some of the stuff. But that's what we did. But being able to read this and talk about the end of the season evaluation, it helped out, because it's like, hey, even though our season hasn't started, preseason hasn't started yet, I can still go back and really do the end of the season, because I am in basketball and it's like take over the whole year. So I'm able to do that. And just being able to take this and create forms already, we can already kind of implement it. It's nothing that we don't have to recreate the real. It's already there for us. So we can kind of give it out too as well. And just being able to at the end of the season, being able to add my AD into the process too as well. I talked about adding the AD in the process to be able to keep it anonymous. So now that the my players will feel like their voice is being heard through the AD, and I'm not really receiving the information directly. So if they are talking about a experience they had, it may be summarized through the AD. So I wouldn't be able to tie it to that specific person. So overall, I enjoyed it, and being able to kind of break down the season.
Good. Yeah, and I'll go next. A lot of kind of the same stuff, like the first paper, Gilbert's vision phase. I created team values survey where the seniors football players come up with their own values in the season. The goal to increase by leadership, accountability, culture before the season even starts. Because I know Gilbert talked about like how success of the season throughout sports, their build their own planning, okay, relationships, could be having visions, everything like that throughout just the season, not just the start of it. Um, so really, biggest thing for that one is making sure they all had a culture, a plan, everything to go into the season from my seniors. Um, my second one was pretty much a focus on communication, clarity, understanding, expectations, team, culture, and concerns that the coaches wanted to know. Like I said, on paper two, I know Gilbert talked a lot about players' roles changing, injuries happening, frustration building, and any problems that could actually happen, throughout the season. Um, he also stressed that coaching isn't something that you are evaluated after the season. He talked about a lot of coaches gather information, make adjustments while they're in season happening. Uh, the goal of each season is to make sure you get feedback during season. Like for football, we got a game once a week. We kind of see the value of how we set things up, how we do things, how we play well, don't do well. And each week you kind of reevaluate, a player or something that you might have messed up. And then my third one, really, it's about it was kind of focused on the end of season, coaching better every single day by Gilbert, 2017. The project really went into, hey, I'm doing a survey, like you said, there was a survey for my players, survey for the coaches, for them to do, and kind of left some open-ended questions as well, so they can actually answer and be very honest. I know that's one of the hardest things to hear sometimes as a head coach or as a coach is, hey, the negativity or positive things you did, it's not all negative, it could be all good stuff too. But it's really looking into, what kind of feedback you're getting from after the season, kids who are playing for you every day, the coaching staff that's with you every day. Every single coach has different values and different mindsets. So something you might not see, but they see. So I kind of really went into that. And then, like the questions that I asked was, as an athlete, do you feel respected, practiced, is it organized? Do you feel like the coaches care about you, on and off the field? And what are your ideas as a football program to make this stronger? Certain questions like that for football and or for the staff and for the players. But that's pretty much what I did, had them answer, and then you have to, it talks about like how the season ends. You really do these things right here. You do the surveys, you do all this to try to make sure that your off season is better for next year.
Nice. Yeah, I had a lot of the same, obviously, content just because we're obviously reading off the same book by Gilbert. A lot of the stuff I enjoyed doing though, because it's practical stuff we've been doing at my past two high schools. So it really paid off being able to write all three papers. For the first one, the preseason one, kind of really clamped on to what Gilbert said, that his argument that culture needed to be built intentionally. For our first paper, it focused on having both the athletes and the coaches work together to identify the core values, kind of like you said, Josh. Um, we found, especially at my last school, we found it's better to have the athletes write down what they believe in, other than just have the coaches present it to them, because then they truly mean it. So we had the athletes rank the values they believe are most important, and then define what those values meant, and identify behaviors to us of what that would mean, so we can know they're not just writing down words. They would tell us the actions behind those words. Really the goal, create greater athlete ownership of the team. You want the team to be player driven, not coach driven. That's when you have the most success. And we thought it would establish a strong culture before all of the games even started. So preseason really was focused on athletes building the culture. The in season kind of latched on to Gilbert from his 2017 book, his belief that every part of practice should be intentional and designed to improve athletes' learning. With the in season project, it was two surveys that were collected weekly, having athletes and the assistant coaches just give feedback on how practice was organized each week. Like you touched on, Josh, football, we play one game a week, and every game seems like it's life or death. So you wanna go into each week feeling like you prepared the athletes the best you can. And if we could get athlete feedback from saying like, oh, we need more individual drills this week, or we need more team drills or more special teams, it really pays off in the long haul of the season. So really wanted to focus on getting weekly feedback from the coaches and the team. That would make practice organization improve continuously and not just get stagnant through the season. And I enjoyed writing that one because that's one I need to do more as a defensive coordinator. But it was very practical. And then the last paper for the end of season evaluation, again collecting feedback from both assistant coaches and players. The areas that we would focus on were accountability, communication, leadership, player development, practice organization, and team culture. So those were the six evaluation benchmarks. Made sure to be intentional about collecting it as soon as the season ended, instead of letting players like sit there and be sad about like for a couple weeks about the season being over and then giving their feedback. So I wanted to be intentional with everything we did, and just really identify areas for improvement, just like all the other papers, and use that information to guide off-season planning. So I know a lot of the same content that y'all said, but I thought it was very practical that for us to apply these papers to our real life teams.
Yeah.
And the last thing was Gilbert's big message was successful coaching it's a year-round process rather than just something that happens during a game or practice. And really, writing these papers really drove that home for me.
I like how
That's
you
all I
said
have.
about having the coach, or not the coaches, the players write down the values. and not just have like a list. I may use that when we do it, because that's true. Like they need to know the meaning behind the value that they're writing down. And it really, like you said, it's
Absolutely.
not like, oh, I'm just saying, let me pick this one, this one, this one. I like that a lot.
You just
So
give them a
thank you for that
short.
idea.
Of course, of course. If you just give them a short, open-ended question,
Yeah.
some kids will BS it, the answer,
Yeah.
but you'll get to see the true meaning of what they mean, and it's
Yeah.
it's really been helpful.
Yeah, and they get to say it in their own words instead of just checking a box.
Yeah.
That's one of the best things. You actually hear their voice instead of, hey,
Mhm.
this is what we're scheduling you to say.
Yeah.
So, so
Keep going to the
Part
does
4.
anyone else anything on their papers before we talk about the readings?
I don't think so.
no, I think that'll be it.
I mean, I can get started if you want me to, Josh. I don't know if
Yeah.
I know you guided the beginning of this.
No, yeah, you're good.
For the readings, one thing, and there's quite a few things that stuck out. Hopefully it did to y'all too, was Gilbert for 2017 really emphasized that coaches shouldn't judge an entire season based off of wins and losses. For me to expand on that, I think it's important because there's so many things that contribute to a successful program that don't necessarily show up in a box score or in the wins and loss column. A team could have a great culture where the athletes have above a 3.0 GPA as an overall team GPA. They're doing right in the classroom, they're doing right in the community, and just because they're less athletic than every team they play, their wins and losses are going to look bad. But if you're providing the correct team culture and setting them up for success post whatever sport they're playing, then that's really how you should be judging a coach. And that really stuck out to me in this reading.
And I completely agree with you on that one because each year, let's be honest, it's different athletes. When senior group graduates, leadership, everything, and if you just keep doing the same stuff over and over, sooner or later, you're going to find a weakness in it instead of, hey, let's build this. This was a weakness this year. Let's try to build that up. Okay. Obviously, next year, a weakness might be somewhere else, but it's always a building block of trying to manage, make sure everything's going good and hitting on all cylinders.
Yeah. I feel like there's a lot of coaches too that like they're so used to doing the same thing every single year, and they see success, but they never get like the really big success. And they're just content with being like that minimal success, and they never change anything. But I think, like you said, like going back and looking at things, and like your team's going to be different every year. So there's going to be different things that you've got to do. You can't continue to do the same things over and over again. And one of the quotes that Gilbert said, it says, the journey from a good coach to a great coach is riddled with setbacks. And like, I mean, that's just in itself, like, if you continue to do the same thing every day and you never have like certain things set you back, like you're going to continue to get the same success, I feel like. So yeah.
When it comes down to measuring wins and losses, having a successful record can also hide bad things in the culture. It talks about it can hide bad problems when it comes down to communication, athletes' dissatisfaction. So when Gilbert talks about you have to evaluate more than just wins and losses, coaches have to start looking into their teamwork improve. We are at the end of the day, we're trying to teach life skills as well as coaches. It talks about how now with the transfer portal, 2% of students is really going to play collegiate ball. So at the end of the day, the 98% of students, we have to, as coaches, teach more than just wins and losses. We have to teach them how to be in the field. And so being just looking at this generally, when you go back to Gilbert's book, it talks about how it's a continuous cycle. When you are evaluating more than wins and losses, it allows you to look at your preseason, set up your preseason schedule, being able to evaluate what are going to be your wins and losses for the next season. Whether if you are again changing a different team, you may not have the same team, you may not be as skillful as they were. Coaches may not be skillful as they were, but being able to take the evaluation of more than wins and losses and apply it to the preseason of what you need to do will help you be a better coach and evaluate what you can do the next year.
Yeah, and I think that hits on the reflection to has to lead in action, like from last season to, hey, your upcoming season. I do like what Gilbert said. Didn't describe reflection as simply thinking back on the season. Reflection should actually change what we do moving forward. If I identify communication as a weakness, but I don't change anything, then the reflection didn't really accomplish much. And I think really when you do the surveys, you talk over the off season with your players and your coaching staff. When you get that information, you actually have to, fix those problems, not just go in there and say, oh, hey, here we go, but then keep doing the same stuff. So everything you were saying about, build blocking in your off season, I mean, it really starts right when that season, and obviously when you're becoming a new coach, starting a new school, a lot of things are different. Okay, you're trying to get a new culture, new mindset, but then after that first season, that next off season, it's your program. You ran it a whole year, and you got to make sure whatever happened in that first season and whatever happened there has got to improve. So
I think too, like it talked about having like the growth mindset and a fixed mindset. And I think like that ties into that growth mindset piece. Like you've got to be a coach that's willing to sit down and reflect on, hey, okay, we had a bad practice today. What are some things that went wrong? What are some things we can do better? And you've got to have that good collaboration and communication piece with your other coaches as well. And I know some people are blessed to have that, and sometimes it's hard. Like you may be working with people and they can be difficult to work with, and but just continue to have that growth mindset and hey, there's going to be challenges and there's going to be obstacles, but we're in this together and we've got to figure it out because we're the adults, the coaches, and even sitting down and talking to your team, like like we said, like those in season practice evaluations, like, hey, what went well? Hey, what can we do better at? I think that's a big piece of that growth mindset as well.
no, I think you're exactly right. Each school, like I said, the school I was at last year compared to the school I'm at right now, um, every once in a while we'd have meetings. We really have a meeting after every practice, and we talk about, hey, what went well, what didn't go well, what do we need to change? Okay, here's what we're going to do, but is there a way we could do something better? Like kids are playing both ways. What way can we put them in a better practice schedule where it's not kind of like sloppy? So we try to make sure everything's good, and I feel like you talked about that.
Like that you mentioned growth mindset too, because just whether coaches like to accept it or not, even most of them, typically old school coaches, have a bit of an ego.
Yeah.
And some are
Most
so set
coaches.
in their ways that they, even if they were to collect these surveys, they're not changing. Um, so I just love that you mentioned growth mindset. Like you have to, especially these new wave of coaches, mainly us, just because we're all in the same age. Like you've got to be willing to put your ego aside and adapt for what's best for the kids, which because we all want success at the end of the day. I mean, I know we want wins and losses, but you got to be able to think about what is helping growing them as well instead of just being stuck in your ways.
Yep. And then with that, like just with the growth mindset, Gilbert kind of hits on to like really comparing your expectations with outcomes. Yeah, like taking your preseason goals, what did you achieve? What did you not achieve? And then taking the data that you use, and it can be with when you have the coaches that are set in their ways, some of this data can really kind of wake them up a little bit because you have objective data, you have wins, stats, you have attendance, and you have injuries. At a certain time when a coach is not being as effective, the attendance can go down. And then you don't, and then injuries as well can go down too, because now if I'm doing the same thing over and over again, and there's injury, and there's a injury, it's like 3 kids have a certain injury, that means we have to do something different. Attendance, when the attendance going down and only kids are showing up for games, why is the kid not coming to practice? And that can be something would be objective, and then subjective data, those coaches may not see it, but some coaches be able to understand athlete satisfaction, confidence, teamwork, just really being there. So having that growth mindset bringing the expectations with outcomes, you will have that, putting those objective and subjective data together, it will allow you to grow. But if that person doesn't want to grow, just putting that data in front of them and the objective data in front of them can kind of be a wake-up call, instead of saying, oh, you're just saying X, Y, and Z. That data is showing for you too as well.
Yeah.
And then, going with that, there was a piece, I'll have to find it and figure it out, but it was like experience alone doesn't make you a better coach. It says, I've always heard that their expectations make you a better coach, and, experiences that you've done. But after the reading of Gilbert, Nash, McPherson, and Collins, I don't think experience alone is enough. You have attention and reflection on those experiences if you want to improve. And I think all of them talked about all the reflection stuff we're trying to get and get better at as coaches. And, if that's building a relationship with not just your staff, but with the players, and trying to just make everything better. So I really think, all of them are really preaching the same thing to improve each year. And that's, hey, let's be honest, we talked about egos earlier. We all have an ego. We're into coaching, and it's just trying to do the best for the kids. In every way possible. It's realize it's not about us, and, the wins and losses, that's not the main thing whenever we want kids to go play college or go be successful in life and learn the ups and downs of life. And because everything doesn't go your way in general, not all the time, so one thing, with that being said, the way these kids, we can make impact in these kids' lives and show them that, hey, there's going to be adversity, and seeing that you can overcome things. And that's why sports is great. Wins and losses, like I said, that keeps us our jobs, but it's not the ultimate goal.
And then another thing I appreciated about Gilbert was that he did preach that coaches need to identify strengths as well as their weaknesses. Like, yes. I know at the end of every season, or even like when we're game planning for football, I'm not sure how it is for basketball or softball. But we're trying to we kind of do like a self scout and see like where we're weak and where the other team's going to attack us from, but we also got to identify our strengths and play to our strengths and know, like, maybe, hey, our strength, kind of what we touched on earlier, our strength of this team is their academics in the classroom. So we can throw more at these kids, like, mentally on the field, if we're being out athleted, so you gotta, I just enjoyed reading what Gilbert said about you should focus on your strengths, even though all of us are always looking for weaknesses to fix. I know a lot of coaches, we bang our heads against the wall just trying to fix our weaknesses, but we really should drive home our good stuff too.
Yeah.
You got it. I wanted to, someone earlier talked about athletes, like everything, it should be athlete driven. And one thing Gilbert talked about a lot is using athletes' feedback. At the end of the day, the athletes, it's really the athletes' experience that kind of keeps good and bad, wins and losses, key and understanding what they're trying to get out of it. And like I said in the previous paper that we talked about, the end of the season evaluations, just try to keep everything anonymous, so you can really receive the honest feedback from the athletes. It allows a coach, Gilbert talks about how it allows a coach to see what was effective when it comes down to communication, how effective were practices, how is the team culture, the environment of the team, what you can do different, and then leadership too as well. Sometimes as a coach, you see, you have a different lens of who do you believe is a leader on your team, or how your leadership role should be towards the team. But when you see it from a athlete perspective, they have a different eye on the game. They have a different vision too as well. You're able to kind of take all these perspectives and kind of cultivate something to help create a better experience. So being able to really use the athlete's feedback, it allows a coach too as well to understand, like, hey, I've already had my experience as a high school, middle, or as a young kid. How can we take this data and create a great environment for this student to be successful. So just being able to read that part, just looking at the athlete's feedback helped out a lot.
Bianca, this is a question I wrote down to ask y'all, but it's perfect that you said that. Um, what do you think coaches can do to encourage athletes to give honest feedback? And that's just not just for you, that's for everyone. But what do you like? Some athletes think like it'll hurt their playing time or hurt their relationship. Like,
Mhm.
what do y'all think like can encourage them to be honest?
I think just
Surveys.
having that like open conversation with them, I just think that, and when you build those relationships with those athletes, even the ones you don't have the great relationships with, if you have open conversation and they hear other people that may play a whole lot that are giving that to you, they may be like, okay, well, maybe I can say these things, like, and not be scared that, hey, I'm not going to get playing time. But like just having that open conversation, like often, I think will open that up.
And like you said, building a relationship.
Yeah.
Once you build that relationship with the athlete, you know, if you get close to them, and it doesn't have to, it's not in front of everybody, these conversations could be just you guys. That way, it's not, hey, kind of against you type thing. One-on-one conversations with them. You build that relationship, you're honest with them. Let's be honest, us coaches, we have to say things that sometimes not the best they want to hear. Like they might not be in this group, might not be playing at this time. They might be starting this week. And we have to be honest with them. And, when they're honest with us, we have to make sure that we, like you said, put our ego down and make sure that's heard. Like make sure it's just not us getting mad at them for saying something to us, but actually taking that and listening to them. I think that's one of the biggest things. Once they feel comfortable with that, you build that relationship. Everyone says, hey, when you have that relationship, they'll run through a wall for you and stuff like that. They'll play for you. Same as us. I mean, if someone's very honest with you and upfront with you, I mean, you're going to trust them, aren't you? Instead of someone who's just going to kind of not be there. So,
I want to add to you, Joshua, when it come down to listen, a compromise, listen and analyze what the students are saying, but also how does it apply to the program? How can you add it to the program? The biggest thing to answer your question, James, for it's under students have to understand there's a time and place as well.
Mhm.
You're not going they're not going to correct you in the middle of practice or game or stuff. When there's a open-ended question, there's a sit down and talk. They need to understand that there's a time and place because that's when a coach can receive the information in a different way. That's that building those skills, those effective communication skills. But also too, coaches could look into having meetings, player parent meetings too as well. Some players may be hesitant of having a meeting with their coach, but that player could basically express to their parents, this is how I feel about something. That player, you as a coach, bring them in, but that parent can kind of guide that student to come in and say, hey, you said X, Y, and Z. Let's talk about it. Just having different ways of communication and opening it up so players can feel comfortable and as a coach just making sure like you're receiving what they're saying and writing those notes down and repeating what the kids said so they understand that you get what they're saying too as well.
correct. And we want our athletes to have a voice, every single one of us. We want them to be leaders. On the court, on the field, doesn't matter what it is. We want leaders out there. How many times have you heard someone say, "Hey, that person was a coach on the field," or "That person was a coach on the court." So you want them to have a voice. You want them to step up in that leadership role. And guess what, when you have a leader, those are the conversations you start having. Because same reason why we'll collect feedback from athletes. They might see strengths and weaknesses that we might not see as coaches. Because they see it as a player. They see how we coach them every day. They see how we react with them. And so they see a different view, a different side than us as coaches.
There's one thing that we do sometimes. We have our players, like we rate the practice on a scale of 1 to 10, and we let them rate it also. And then like say we rate it an 8 out of 10 and they rate it a 9 out of 10. We like talk about why. Like the coaches talk about why and the athletes talk about why. And then it's actually kind of develops like that good conversation with them. And
Like that.
I really enjoy doing it.
Sometimes I wish football was a smaller like
Yeah.
team sport
Yeah.
because like getting 80 of those jokers to do that would be chaos.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
like that concept.
Yeah.
Might
No,
be
I like that.
positions.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
could do
I
it
could do
like,
position group. Yeah,
yeah,
that's a good
Yeah.
Bianca. That's a good idea.
yeah.
I
Yeah,
could
that's
do
Um,
that.
so I got a question for y'all. So like it talks about how we in the previous talks about collecting data and evaluations. As a coach, how can coaches evaluate results into specific off-season goals? Like how can they take that data they receive and make it to a goal for the off-season into the preseason?
Good
Like
question.
I can tell you like, well, look, reading this question, like reading Gilbert, um, just looking at other programs, I'm able to see other coaches create themes
Mhm.
for other coaches and other programs create themes for the previous year. Like I like for the instance, the NCAA create collected data when it comes down to mental health. So now they're applying mental health days for athletes to have. So just taking some of those results, how can a coach really take those results and apply it to the next season?
Biggest thing, and I know football is a lot different, so that's the only perspective I can talk from. But like a lot of the athletes will talk about like practice structure and like the amount of days we actually practice like in a row. Especially when we're in like June and July. Like I know like towards the end of the July, like the season's about to start, like you really have no choice but to ramp up. But I think we got to take into account like in like June that they're still just kids and they deserve a summer. So kind of like I would have like if they were to take a survey, they'd be like, oh, like we should go Tuesday through Thursday in June and like
Mhm.
practice then lift and then like we deserve to have a summer too, you know? So like being able to get out of that hardened mindset of we have to work, 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 you know, and keep in mind they're middle schoolers, high schoolers, and we should potentially try to work with them to tailor to where they can still have fun and enjoy their experience.
Mhm.
I don't know if that answered your question, but
Yeah, because you want
um,
them
And,
at their full potential when you're
yes,
playing in your season.
yes.
And we actually like sometimes we'll give Fridays off because football's playing and if
Mhm.
we don't have a game, because we want the girls to be able to experience like being in high school, not just like, yes, you are on a softball team, but like we want them to have fun. So we kind of started not practicing on Fridays and we practice on Sunday nights. And then
Nice.
after Sunday nights, they'll actually all go to one person's house and eat and do like a Bible study or something together.
that's
And
awesome.
so I think that we kind of asked them, like, well, hey, what would you prefer? And that was one of the input things that like they gave us.
I love that. Seriously, that having I'm all about sports. So um, I know you're not really supposed to go in about yourself, but I'm from
Yeah.
Missouri. We gave pretty much football made sure all other sports got everything in June. And then in Missouri, and then July was ramping up and getting ready for the season, where moving down to Georgia is a little bit different, So, um, which, when in the past, Missouri, if you started pushing things a little early, you saw burnout during playoffs, which, like, you've been doing it for so long. And so you start seeing kids burn out, ready to go on to the next sport, stuff like that. In Georgia, these kids are built a little different and mindset's a little different with football. So, but I agree. I agree with what James is saying. You kind of level out a little bit and, kind of keep as light as possible as much in June. That way, July, hey, I mean, the season's right, a few more weeks. So,
Mhm. We fight too, like with me coaching softball, travel softball is spring through summer. So we have to
yeah,
fight that. Like, and it's hard because you want your team together as much as you can through the summer. Because hey, our first game's August 6th, and our first official practice date and isn't until the 27th. So it's hard, and then we know they're playing softball, they're being competitive, but like it's not the same as being around the people that you're gonna play with and during your high school season. But they do the burnout. because of that, and then rolling right into it, it's tough. It's hard.
Bianca, you got to go with that with basketball, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, yeah,
Travel ball.
yep, coaches, because basketball is a skill that you cannot like put a ball down and you cannot take off 3 weeks. You will
Right.
lose it. You will lose it. So trying to keep kids in, burnout. I forgot someone talked about burnout. Uh, that burnout, man, it is real in playoffs when it come down to basketball. It is bad. So like when it come down to every survey I get is from end of year survey I get is burnout. And trying to find trying to take, different steps every year to decrease the burnout towards the end of the season is what we are striving to do. So just taking like trying to take an evaluation and make it meaningful is becoming a little hard with the culture of students today.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think all of us are, pretty much agreeing that as coaches, we consistently watch film, we consistently try to make our athletes better, and try them to learn from it. But Gilbert's challenge, uh, to me and probably to all of us was, do I spend the same amount of time evaluating myself and our program and how, get our athletes to grow, but we have to grow as a staff and as a person as well. And that's something I got from him, through that reading, and everything you guys are saying. I'm like, yeah, I mean, he's exactly right. I mean, we talk about kids burnout. Well, that's kind of on us as well. Trying to give the nice guideline of, hey, yes, we want you to go out and play. We want you to go do this stuff, but make sure you're being a kid, like James said. Go have fun. Because yes, when football season's here, we don't want to miss it during season. We don't, we'd rather have them miss during summer. Give them that times, give them that schedule early. That way they're ready.
Mhm.
No, we're running short. So there was one more question. I think we only have about 10 minutes left. And I noticed this. I'm sure I just wanted to make sure I asked it to y'all. Did y'all notice how much like each phase was dependent on the previous one? I didn't really realize that until writing these papers. You kind of just go about the seasons as preseason, in season, then out of season. But never really until I read Gilbert's readings realized how dependent they were upon each other. That really stuck out to me. They felt
Yeah.
like super connected, and I'm sure that I know they are, but like
Yeah.
it was crazy to me just never looking at it in that perspective.
Yeah. And one of the
Yeah,
things that
big.
really stuck, go ahead.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
Okay.
Finish. You.
One of the things that stuck out to me too in the out of season, not the end of season, but like what is it called? I'm trying to think. His
Postseason.
preseason, in
Yeah.
season, end of season, and
Postseason.
off season.
Every season, right?
When they talked
Yeah.
about
Out.
the collaboration and learning chapter, and it talked about connecting with other coaches. I think that's huge because in the off season, typically we'll go to some sort of coaches clinic, hang out as coaches just outside of the actual sport and talk to other coaches and like, see what other programs and stuff are doing. Hey, did this work for you? Stuff like that. I think that's huge. And also our school always offers it's a coaches and family camp in the summer and it's in St. Simon's and it's a FCA thing, but it is awesome and it is like a refresher. And I didn't go until this past year, and man, I will go every year because it is so cool to talk to other coaches, even that don't they coach all different sports around the state of Georgia, and some even come from like South Carolina and stuff. But like, it is a huge refresher just to know like we are not the only ones struggling with these things, and just having that connection with other coaches. It just really it'll impact you as a coach and be like, it's like a sigh of relief almost.
Reading this book, Gilbert broke the book into 4 pieces, 4 parts. And most coaches break their season down into 4 quarters. Um, and being able to really see it in verbiage kind of like open eyes to, okay, first quarter is preseason, second quarter in season, end of the quarter, in end of the season, some people kind of change it up, maybe in season, maybe do second and third quarter, and at the end of the season, fourth quarter, or and then evaluate. Being able to break your season down into that aspect and kind of group it into months based off of your specific sport allows you to take this book and put your whole program into it. Yesterday, I've there have been coaching clinics where they offer a class where it says building a team and building a program. This book allows you to build a program. Being able to really sustain a culture and being able to cultivate your team to be, all around a great program. So when it comes down to athletics, academics, and as a great citizen. And so just reading this book allows you to break it, it allowed me to I'm a I am a box type of person that has everything has to be in a specific box. This kind of organized the box for me. So being able to see this allows that too as well when it comes down to Gilbert, breaking it down into 4 quarters.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree with you. The 4 quarters, I'm with you on that one. Really, that first paper and going on, each paper is like, okay, make sure you like realize step by step how everything is. And now, even when I was going back over my notes and everything, going back over my paper, before this, I'm gonna be honest, it was like, okay, now you're putting it all together, you're talking about everything, okay, and you really start relating that with what you do year by year without even realizing it. That's something. I mean, like I said, 15th year coaching. It's you're in it. And you've been doing it for a while. It helps you open your eyes and kind of see some things, and it lets you be able to reflect. It, just as a coach, ways to improve. In each section, each quarter.
And as we wrap up, I know just this one last thing. Just from what Gilbert said, every coaching decision should be evidence-based. I think that's a great point. I know that's a little bit we've touched on. But just learning like with these like handouts or questionnaires or everything, all of us made just like learning different types of information and tools we can use to collect that information. Um, to make the experience the best for the athletes we can be will just be invaluable. Um, and that was again one of the other big takeaways is just different type of ways to reach our athletes.
And one thing I know this kind of jumped back, but I kind of wanted to ask this question. Have you guys ever had it where, and I know leaders are different, but have you ever had it where you put your name, your athletes actually put their name on the evaluations,
No,
or you just left it all anonymous?
always done anonymous. I felt like you got a better participation.
Yeah.
Same.
So have I.
Anonymous.
I just wanted to see if anybody has, kind of.
Anonymous. And then another thing now I would add to it is kind of, including your AD or including a outside party to where
Right.
they're receiving the answers so that is you receive it full participation. So now you're able to kind of collect that data and see what's really going on
I
because
like that.
it's almost like they're telling your boss, but not really.
I like that
Right.
you added your AD when you were talking about that earlier, Bianca. I never thought to do that. That was good.
Because I know as
And
head
it,
coaches, you get their evaluation anyways. So adding
Mhm.
that in there, I think that's awesome. Because as a head coach, you evaluate your coaches, and then AD evaluates you and everything. So I love that you add that in there. I went blank on that as well. So I love that idea.
Yeah.
And then
I
go ahead, Morgan.
I was gonna ask y'all what's something that you guys do off season that like you do to like recharge yourself as a coach because it's a journey, it's exhausting, it's long. Like what do you guys do to help yourself recharge for the next season?
Um, so if I go back and tie it back to Gilbert, though reading the strengths, you're not looking just at the weaknesses of your program of what's happening, reading the strengths. Being able to read some of those evaluations and reading some of the great experiences because most of the time something that runs you away from it is the negative experience, the negative feedback. But once you read the strengths of what you really done and the positive feedback that you receive, that's that recharge for me, because it's like, okay, everything wasn't bad. Let me see what was good and how can I build on that, but also keep going. So just seeing, just not just focusing on the negatives, focusing on the positive and the strengths will help out too as well. That's that recharge for me.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with the recharge, or being able to look at strengths and weaknesses, and mainly strengths at that certain things that make you feel good. Obviously, not just reading negative stuff. I also, for me as a coach, I enjoy going to other sports. I enjoy seeing other athletes, seeing other coaches coach, encouraging kids to go be multi-sport athletes, and seeing them just be competitive at everything. Different, and it gets me a step away from the game, helps me be there for someone, for some coaches that coach other sports, I'm real close with, if they have any questions, we could talk over things. Same thing whenever I'm in season, I have them by my side. And I think that just that friendship, that bond that you have, um, off season stuff, like you talked about going to clinics, and recharge on that and get in the mindset of learning something new. Always learning something new is big. Doesn't matter what it is. Do you run that type of offense or that type of defense or way to connect with kids, the way to do a program? I think that stuff's great. It doesn't matter what. Like I said, I went to jury where swimming, the swimming coach was really good. And so, you learn from him. The basketball program is really good. They all learned and built together. And that's going to a smaller school, college, kind of like Valdosta State, but everybody like builds together and is really a community. And that every school I've been into, I try to make that like a family thing, and it helped me recharge.
Yeah.
Same for me, Josh. I was gonna say, like almost the exact same thing. I know Gilbert talked about like the coaching cycle never ends, and that includes like this being like a relationship business, building the relationships with the athletes or just people in the school outside of the athletes. Um, really just helps you like you get into coaching to win, or I think most people get into coaching to win, like everyone enjoys winning, but if we didn't enjoy the relationship aspect of it, we would have been driven away by now. So just being able to, like you asked Bianca, recharge and, or was that you, Morgan? I'm sorry. It was you, Morgan. Just to recharge and get to know your athletes on a more personal level. And if they play other sports, just them seeing you support them, um, builds a greater connection between both of you. And I think it's just nice to see them doing something else they love.
Um, is there like any takeaways that anybody like have, like just reading this overall, how Gilbert says a continuous cycle, you know, preaching to students is, continue to be a student of the game. This is that phrase right there is what pops out to me when reading Gilbert. Continue, coaching is a continuous cycle, because at the end of the day, as a coach, reading this too as well, you're collecting data, evidence data, and you're always forever being continuous a student of the game. And it might be your program, but at the end of the day, how can I make my program better? So that's the biggest takeaway I kind of took from this. Continue to being a student of the game.
Yeah. Yeah, in all four aspects, like you talked about, just continue growing as a coach and growing as a person, and trying to build relationships.
Yeah, that growth mindset piece that we talked about kind of at the beginning, like that was one of the biggest takeaways I took. Like you can't have a fixed mindset. You've got to have the growth mindset and wanting to do better each day and learning from things that you've done wrong or in the past that didn't work. Just that growth mindset piece was huge.
Well, guys, I know we're at an hour. Is that where we need to be at? Is that
Our,
okay?
yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything that we missed or that we need to hit on, or do you guys feel good right here?
I enjoyed what we talked about. I appreciate
Yeah,
y'all.
it was good.
Yeah.
Thank y'all so much.
Hey.
Thanks for letting us
Thank
join
you.
and all that.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. We appreciate it more than you know. So, and good luck the rest of the school year, and
Yep.
last one, and we got one more semester. So
One
Yep.
more.
One
We
more,
got
we'll do
See
it.
each other in person.
That's right. I will be going. I will be going. So
I'm missing a basketball game actually on that day. So I told my assistants, have at it.
you got this. Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. So, well, you guys have a good one. I'll get this sent out to everybody that after I stop recording and everything. So,
Okay.
Thank
Thank
y'all.
all
y'all.
right. Hey, thank you guys.
See ya.
See ya.